politicians are targeted, when journalists are targeted, then after some time they say, okay, it's too much for me. I just can't stand this whole hate anymore. I can't stand this disinformation anymore.
Welcome to Connecting for Future, your podcast for beyond connectivity. And now, your host, Christian Kosling.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Connecting for Future, where we discuss the challenges and opportunities and collaboration shaping a better world. I'm your host Christian Kosling, and today we are tackling a subject that touches all of us in the digital age: online hate and digital violence. To help us navigate this important issue, we have a very special guest today, Anna-Lena von Hodenburg from HateAid. HateAid is one of the leading organizations in Europe working to combat online hate, supporting victims of digital violence and advocate for safer online spaces. Anna-Lena, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christian. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Anna-Lena, for our listeners who might not be familiar with HateAid, could you start by explaining what you do and why online hate and digital violence have become such a pressing issue?
Well, HateAid is a human rights organization. We were founded 5 years ago, and we started as first consultation for victims of digital violence in Germany. Federal consultation, and we've since then consulted over 5,000 people who had been victims of digital violence, and that can be anything from insults to defamations to sexualized deepfake porn to doxing. That means your private address is published online. But we don't only do that. We don't only consult emotionally. We support also legally. So we finance civil court cases, even until the highest courts. And we are also an advocacy organization where we see that users' rights are violated, where we see that there are new laws needed because the digital space is a new space, and digital violence is a new form of violence. And a lot of our systems are not prepared for that. So when we are seeing that there is a need for new law initiatives, for example, then we advocate for it. And what we also do is we are a little bit like David against Goliath. We go to court also against the big social media companies when there is an injustice. We sued Meta in a strategic court case. We sued Twitter in a strategic court case. And so we do something that normal people would not dare to do, because they don't. Who is going to sue in court a big social media company? It costs you a lot of money. Come with the best lawyers, and so we're kind of their voice, public voice, but we're also the voice of people affected in the courts here in Germany and also internationally.
Oh, that's incredible, important work. Well, thank you so much already. So everybody can come to HateAid. So it doesn't matter which country, and no such where you say, hey, we only support Germany only, or the EU. It could be everybody in the world.
No, we only support people who come from German-speaking countries, which means from Germany, from Switzerland, from Austria. But our lobbying work we're doing for example, in the European Union. And so things that we fight for on the European level will affect all of the European states. For example, the last big victory that we got was the directive. There was a directive in Europe for the criminalization of crimes that especially affect women. So, and not only domestic violence, but also just misogyny, violence that especially affect women, for example, rape. And so what we did was we were the voice for those who for the women that get attacked online. So we lobbied for example, deepfake porn to be criminalized. We lobbied for dick pics to be criminalized. And that new law that has to go into effect in all the European member states until the end of 2027 will affect every woman, will be of the benefit of every woman in the whole European Union. So our lobby work, our advocacy work is something that is more widespread, but the consultation we do here in Germany.
Yeah, it's terrifying to see how many people really face such topics, right? In your view, what role do business, especially tech companies, have in addressing online hate?
Well, The thing is, with online hate, you could say, okay, this doesn't affect me as a business because that's online. Maybe, okay, if I'm an online platform, then this should affect me, but normally it doesn't affect me. But what is becoming clear, I think, in the last couple of years is that online hate is not only affecting individuals, but it is affecting our societies. And not only online hate, but also disinformation that comes with it naturally. So what we are seeing is that through online hate, certain groups, certain people with certain opinions are targeted. We can see in statistics that it affects especially women, it affects especially the queer community, it affects especially people who look like they have a migration background. So you can see misogyny, you can see racism. No, that is very strong in the digital space. And we can also see that targeted disinformation campaigns are meddling with our elections, are influencing us with the decisions that we make as a society. And so this is not something so when people are targeted, when politicians are targeted, when journalists are targeted, then after some time they say, okay, it's too much for me. I just can't stand this whole hate anymore. I can't stand this disinformation anymore. I'm just gonna leave this space, or I'm just gonna not talk about certain topics anymore in the digital space. Or I have journalists in my consultation who say, okay, I'm just not reporting on certain topics anymore because I know what the backlash is going to be. They're going to threaten my family. I'm going to be threatened with rape. So I'm just not going to do it anymore. And what we are seeing in the last couple of years is that a lot of people are just leaving the online space, and the debate is left to those who scream the loudest, who spread most of the hate. And I think then and this is changing our societies, this is changing our democracies. And for businesses, it is extremely important to operate in democratic societies, because that gives you security, that gives you rule of law that you need as a business if you want to make negotiations, and that gives you in democratic society also is a greater opportunity to flourish as a business than if you are in if you operate in an authoritarian regime. So even businesses have an interest to secure that we still live in democracies, and then to tackle and be aware of online hate and disinformation just goes with it. And we have seen here in Germany, for example, that during this year, lots of businesses have taken a stand, for example, publicly in addressing online hate, in addressing disinformation, and also standing up for democracy. Because yes, on a moral level, there is an interest, but there's also an economic interest to preserve democratic societies.
That brings me to an interesting point. Lately, I don't know how you feel about it, but lately I've seen that tech giants in the world, they have changed the tones a little bit, in my opinion. It seems like some platforms, let's take X, former Twitter, are becoming more combative about aggressive tones, right? Recently, we saw a well-known figure responding quite roughly to a EU commissionary, Mr. Breton, which seems to indicate that even prominent players feel emboldened to use harsher language. What's your take on this? Is this a part of a broader trend you are seeing?
Absolutely, Christian. And I think this example that you just mentioned on X with Elon Musk is a good example to show that we have put our public discourse, the place where we talk about what's going on, how we want to, where we debate about the topics that are important in our society, that had been in the classic media before, that we have put them now on these social media platforms, and we have put them in the hands of private businesses. And all of a sudden, we can get lucky, and we have someone who leads that kind of company and is a person that believes in democratic structures, in the rule of law, in protecting also the weaker part of the society who is against discrimination, or they are bought by people who think that, who are ultra-libertarian, as Elon Musk, for example, is, and who then say, okay, freedom of speech is, in my opinion, is a concept where I can just say anything I want, and where I can insult people, where I can use defamations, where I can threat people. And in my opinion, it's always the stronger person that is going to win, so I can use whatever I want. And I think this is something that goes, if you, for example, look at our constitutions or the core values that we have in our society, is they always say that don't discriminate other people, that everyone has the same rights in a society, that in Germany we say that every human right has a certain, human rights are untouchable, that this is like this basic thing in our society that you don't touch, that is to be respected. And all of a sudden, because they have such a power, then they feel like they can just leave these rules and leave these principles that we've built our societies on, that not always work, but that at least we build our societies on, that we agree on. They can leave these behind. And a very important thing that has led us to this process is that you asked, they are more bolder than before. The comments are bolder, more aggressive. If you go on X and you read the comments, sometimes I still do that. You're really shocked. Yes, because we have just let them do this for a very long time and they have got away with it. And so if people see that they can push limits further and further and further, then they do so if they have certain goals. No? So it started with harsh language, and then the insults came and the defamations came and the threats came. And since nobody did anything, there is a normalization that is taking place. And it's not only a normalization that we see in the digital world, but we also see that this is something that also transpires to the analog world. So all of a sudden, in Germany, for example, you can see more aggression against police officers, more aggression against medical personnel. You can see more aggression against journalists, against activists, against politicians. So the toxic language, the aggression that we see in the digital world also then transpires to the analog world.
And how can we what do we need to do? Like, do we have to take things already into school classes to teach kids like how to tackle those topics, or where do we need to start?
I think there's not this one easy answer. I wish I could say, okay, Christian, we do this magic thing and then everything goes back to, some people say, okay, then we just abolish the internet and then everything goes back to normal. But no, because the internet actually is a place that has a lot of opportunities also. No? It's a great place where if I go on YouTube and I just watch a video on how to repair my washing machine and it works, it's great. Or if I look at the Arab Spring or look at Fridays for Future movements that have flourished on the internet, that's fantastic. So I think we just need to make it better. And there are different things that we need to do. Yes, we have to go into school classes and we have to teach our kids, and we also have to teach them to see what is fake and what is fact. We have to show them what is behind the things that they only see on their screen, that there are economic interests, that there are certain groups that assemble to and gather and try to and then attack, for example, a politician during elections. We have to show them all this. So we have to kind of do democratic education for the online century. So that is something. And then the next thing is we need law enforcement. I mean, there are so many things there are so many criminal comments that just stay online because nobody takes care of it. Nobody reports it to the police. It doesn't get deleted by the online social media platforms. So we need to do more policing. Also, if you go on the street, you expect also the rule of law. Why could you not expect that in the digital space? I think there we are behind, and we need to train our law enforcement agencies, from the policeman or woman to the judge, to understand what is happening online, because absolutely we are behind. And then the third thing is, we can't wait until we have to make these places safer. No? Also if kids go online, it's not a safe place. If we look at the statistics right now, we see that if you send your kid without supervision online, then you have the 50% chance that they encounter some sort of violence. And we can't allow that. And also not for us, not for women, not for all these groups that are especially affected. We can't allow that. We need to make these platforms safer. And we have done that with other products, because at the end of the day, social media companies, social media platforms and apps, they are just products and they are designed in a certain way. And so we need to design them in a safer way. And look, you wouldn't go and sit in a car that doesn't have an airbag, that doesn't have, a seatbelt. You wouldn't sit your kid in a car without a little children's seat, because you know that it's safer if you use it. And so that's what we need to demand also from the social media platforms and from the digital products, the apps, that they are designed in the design process before they get on the market, that they are designed safer. And we need to look before we release them them on the markets at the risks that they can impose on our kids, on us, and on our society.
That's very important, right? And also to show more respect and not to look away, no matter where, to speak up.
You know, Christian, I think for a long time, we haven't considered us as citizens also in the digital space. Now, you are a citizen if you go on the street or if you take the metro or the bus. You are a citizen. If you see that somebody is aggressively attacked, maybe you go there and you interfere, but at least you call the police or you go to the driver or you gather with others and try to interfere in the situation. And online, we've just clicked away and clicked away and clicked away because it's not our business. It's only online. It's only a word and you don't see the person affected actually, you just see their profile picture. And so we kind of ignored that we also need that the same courage, the civil courage that we show when we see somebody being aggressively attacked in the analog world, that we need to show that in the digital world. And also, I think changing this perspective also to say, okay, I'm a citizen here and I'm going to demand the rights that I want to have in the society. And so also demand that these places need to be safer, people need to speak with more respect and get involved there and not only consume and then click away.
And looking ahead, what do you think the future holds for online hate and digital violence prevention? Are there any hopeful signs, or do you think the situation will get worse before it gets better?
I think we are I think we are at a crossroad. We are at a crossroad. If you look at our societies, for example, right now, you see huge polarization in all over the world. Now, you see these polarized societies where people just only scream at each other, but don't talk to each other anymore. You know, we kind of lost this public space where we debated, where we sometimes also harshly debated, but where we still, the better argument would still win, where we try to convince each other. And we don't convince each other anymore. It's kind of this, I'm on this side and you are on this side, and we scream at each other, and then we go, then we hate each other, and we just negate the other person. And I think it's a horrible diagnosis for society, but it has a lot to do with how social media platforms work. No? That the algorithms favor emotional and also hateful content, and that's why this hate always goes viral quicker than love. That's why disinformation spreads a lot faster than really basic, very clear and information. And so I think it's time for us to act now and to say, okay, in what kind of society do we want to live? How do we want to change these platforms? And we don't want to abolish them. The internet and the digital age, we can't roll the time back. But we have all this time sat there and see them evolve, let them do their business, and we've just adopted everything that happened to us very passively. So right now, we need to change this attitude. We need to become active as citizens and say, okay, we don't want that. This is the minimum standard that we want for security, in a moral way. This is the minimum standard that we demand from these platforms. This is the minimum standard that we demand from law enforcement. This is the minimum standard that we demand from our politicians to put in place politics and policies that protect us as citizens. And in Europe, we have started with that, with the Digital Services Act and the AI Act. And we have done a first step also to try to mitigate risks. Also we have obliged the big social media platforms to analyze the risks that they have on elections, for example, on the security of our children, on discrimination. So every year now they have to provide an analysis to the European Commission, and then they have to make a proposal how they are going to mitigate these risks. And in my opinion, this should happen before the products even come into the market. But this is like a first step that is going in the systemic direction. I think this is a good step. You've seen in Britain, for example, there's new legislation that passed. You see that, for example, right now in the United States, there are court cases where also social media platforms are taken to court because, they have influenced kids to do certain things and change their behavior through their algorithms. So that is treating the dangers that social media platforms have on kids. So I think there's a lot of things are happening. We are waking up slowly. And I think that right now we just have to, we have to move. We can't stop. We can't sit there and just look away or be completely passive. But we need to become active and say, okay, and really get a vision of how should the digital age look in a democratic future? How should that look like? And not only try to react on what is happening right now, but also create a vision and then act on it.
It sounds like it's going to take collective effort, right? From business, governments, and everybody, people all working together. So how can our listeners get involved in supporting initiatives against online hate and digital violence? Do you got go on your website, or are there steps which you can recommend?
So there are different steps. I think what you can, because we're talking about businesses here, and a lot of listeners here are part of a business. So I think what we've talked about at the beginning is very important. That's something, for example, we see in Germany a lot, that businesses start committing to work supporting NGOs, for example, non-governmental organizations who take a stand for digital rights, for example, or take a stand for human rights in the digital space. And then a lot of employees can just be part of that. And this is something that companies can do. And then as a company, you can stand up for values that you believe in, and also promote them for the digital space. And then normal people, what can you do? Be a citizen online. Be there when you see, don't look away, and be there when you see that somebody else gets threatened. Every 4 years at least, you will cast your vote. So also look at what political parties propose you, how they want to govern the digital space, and make it something that influences your decision also when you cast your vote. You have a power in a democracy, so use it. And I think what you can also do is just when you see that somebody is very aggressively attacked, report it to the police, because it's a big burden for a lot of people to do that themselves. And if you say, okay, I want to support NGOs, then yes, you can come to the HateAid website. You can look in your country. Are there any NGOs that are involved in this matter? And support them with donations, maybe support them with voluntary work. We have a lot of pro bono, for example, law firms that support us because we do this legal work. So, there are a lot of possibilities. And I think what is important is that you don't think too much and that you start to act.
Anna-Lena, before we wrap up, we like to end with a quick fire round. We would start with a few questions. Are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So you already mentioned you are using X. Are you also using TikTok, given the rise of online hate on those platforms? I'm
using TikTok because it's, as a professional, it's part of my profession. I have to go there and see how things evolve. So I can be, as I'm an expert on this field, I need to be on these online platforms and see how they work. So yes, I do use TikTok.
What's the first thing you do to unwind after dealing with a tough case on digital violence?
If it really affects me and if it has really also touched me, I try to do something that is very real. So sometimes I just go and hug my daughter and it feels really real to me. And I remember on what is important in life and that, so do something, decompress in this kind of way.
Good answer. If you could make one rule mandatory for all social media platforms tomorrow, what would it be?
That all social media platforms, before they put on new products, and even the products that they have now, that they have to analyze the risks that they have for our society and mitigate those risks. And only products who are safe by design can come on the German market or on the worldwide market.
And finally, what's your go-to book or show when you need an escape from the online world?
That's a good question. My go-to show, actually, when I need an escape is John Oliver. Although he speaks in English not, but in German I speak very quickly. He speaks as quickly in English as I do, but I just love him. He entertains me, he's smart, and he still has the seriousness, but he is also very entertaining. So John Oliver, I can recommend him to anyone.
Ah, cool. If you can give an advice for future leaders who wants to tackle issues for online hate and digital violence, what would this be?
Yes, I have an advice. Get connected. Don't act on your own. Look at alliances, because we are already out here and we're here to, it's such a big problem. We will not be able to tackle it alone. There's not this one solution. And even if your solution is great, it will not solve the whole problem. So let's join forces from the beginning and look at the whole ecosystem. And then I think, the chances of success are a lot higher than if you act by yourself.
Anna-Lena, thank you so much for your time today and for the important work that you do and your team with HateAid. It's been a real eye-opener to learn more about the scale of online hate and what we can do to fight back.
Thank you, Christian. It has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Connecting for Future. Remember, it's crucial for all of us to take an active role in creating a safe digital environment. Stay safe, stay engaged. Until next time, your podcast host, Christian Köstling.